few things that I wanted to ask you, Mahesh, in the context of this global expansion. How do you see the pricing differential? You know, you price it with a certain market in one geography. How do you take it and displace it and then price it accordingly in the market, let's say the global market, US, for that? What's your thought process? How do you think about pricing this product?
First of all, with respect to India vis-a-vis international markets, it's night and day. To begin with, here it's, in the US market, it's about value. So the price is important, yes. The cost is not a factor really, but it's how much value you can deliver. And the other thing is being able to prove ultimately an ROI or a value that you clearly deliver. So it's very important to be able to say, because you're spending all of this, this is what you're getting. From a simple ROI perspective. And the other thing is how much value. So initially when I went to the US and international markets, I did a ground up based costing exercise and did the conventional cost it at this per hour and then totaled up everything and added a profit margin and I said, okay, this is going to be my bottom. I went to a couple of trade fairs and I was blown away by the kind of numbers that other people said. So I just literally shut up because the numbers I went with were like, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to ask for about $120 per hour. So I went there and I asked somebody who was potentially a competitor, I said, how much do you charge? $300 an hour. Why? Because he could establish that value. So that's the most important part of how we price for the US. What is the value you establish? And then therefore, all of the rest flows from that. The next thing is ROI. So it depends on how large the problem is that you're solving and also how quick you can deliver. That's where I believe that products can win because you can go there and say, hey, you can start tomorrow or you can start day after or you swipe your credit card now, even if it's a big thing, but then you are onboarded and then continue. So that's very quick adoption. The second thing is how big of a problem do they have? And that by itself is an inherent advantage for us because the numbers are already so large. And we're already talking about I mean, we're going to get a couple of US dollar contracts and everybody is so happy about what's going to happen. So we already have an arbitrage. So therefore, the numbers already are so big in the US, and then if you take an Indian context, it's even bigger. So these are the things that I've learned. Large, very large projects, value, and as well as establishing ROI, rather than pricing.
Wonderful. So Wilbur, does that apply for you?
Kind of, but what we did was, so primarily we had a base value based on competition, but you don't know what they have sold. In enterprise sales, there is no published price. It's how much the customer can afford. So somewhere we found out what the competition was charging. So we kept that as the base, and our initial goal was we need logos in the US. So eventually, when you want to go to a customer and the first question is, who else is using it? They don't care whether they bought it for $1 or they bought it for $100,000. At the end of the day, I have a logo in the US where who's happy, who I can have as a reference. So that was so we always pitched a little lower than that base number. And then we tried little below, little above, and kind of saw the range at which people started to push back. And so, okay, this is where people feel comfortable in terms of what the product's value is for them. And then we kind of narrowed down and saying, this is the band in which, and it's still a band, it's not a single number, it's usually a band in which we will operate and negotiate up and down depending on how it goes. So that's how we did it.
I'll give you an example. I make wine. And you can buy a bottle of wine for a few $1,000s and you can buy a bottle of wine for $6.
Right.
But what goes into the cost of a $6 is a bottle, the label, the cork, the sleeve, and then you have to sell.
Right.
All $6. You think there's any margins left in that? So the point I'm trying to make is it's all about how you bring value out for the customers and convince
Right.
them that it has that value, that you need to pay the price. So I'm just playing that, the important part of what I'm trying to ask each of you is, how do you price it in that market, but yet not lose money, right? Okay. What about Nishant, you?
Right. So Zyma has a pricing model already established. So depending on, since ours is more on a hardware product, so there are lots of certification requirements, and especially the time required for installation. And we have a market standards for the other processes, because we deliver our products for the process industries who are already having large competitors like ABB, Schneider, and Emerson into the field. So we know the pricing of theirs, and we have a value-based pricing also added to it. Since we are providing more technology advancement and robustness of the product, and the flexibility comes on the value-based pricing is, see, once you have a target life of the asset, and we are exceeding the asset, so we keep a value-based pricing. Whatever production you give, I'll take a small percentage out of it. So that has helped us in one particular deal, not in the US, but somewhere else. So I think that is the pricing model which we have in our products, along with the existing standard market prices itself.
Wonderful. So, not apples and apples here, but oranges. So walk me through that.
Yeah. Before I do that, just a quick one on the last one. I do believe in founder-led sales, and I agree with that. But the point is, in some of our largest market, of course, is the US defense, and unless he's an American citizen, he's not allowed into the room or he can't access it. That's why we have to do that. So going back to the cost perspective of getting the pricing model, what we've done is we've done a set of benchmarking with some of the players. Then we built a pricing calculator. Then what we did is we did a simulation of how does the data happen. If not for us, what would you do traditionally? How much would be the cost takeout or cost savings? And what would happen in the ground station cost? What would happen in the cloud cost, etc. And vis-a-vis, you come back to say, this is what's the value that you get from us. And hence, this is how it's kind of a walk them through the solution kind of thing and make them understand the features where it matters for them, and then surface it at the end of it saying there's a cost of the BOM or there's a price of the solution, and hence this is what it takes to engage with us. And that kind of a discovery has worked for us. Sometimes the customer has patience to walk through it because it takes 1 or 2 calls, because it's slightly deep tech, and they have to pay a lot of attention when we talk about it. Sometimes we are also getting much more crafty to say, how do we sell well on this motion? So it's a bit of an experiment with approach A versus approach B versus approach C, because we also look back to say the persona of saying, is he a chief of product, chief of missions, chief of technology, or is he a business guy? Traditionally, we have seen that a business guy does not have that much of patience. He wants things in a very crisp way, under 10 seconds. Tell me what it costs, how quick, how soon. And for that guy, we have a different sales motion. For the other guys, we have a different sales motion. So this is what we oscillate with to get there.
Wonderful. I think I'm going to take the opportunity to, thank Vish, Upasana, the entire set of partners that have been participating in making this even successfully happen in a very short period of time, and giving us the opportunity to use a fantastic facility. Even by US standards, I think this is a fabulous facility. So thank you very much. And I want to thank the panelists as well. I think much of what you do is about your persistence in taking your product and your ideas forward. What is important for you to consider is when you hit certain walls, the smart entrepreneurs will try to find a way around the wall or pivot into another direction and so on and so forth. So it's nice to hear that you guys have been very persistent in how you are approaching your expansion into markets outside of India. The ability for you to be able to build value before you raise capital in the international markets. Eventually, at some point, the money will be evenly, what I would call the water will level out in all areas at the same time. But until that point in time, the idea is to be able to protect your IP. In some of the cases, in both of your cases, it's IP that you have to ensure, and make sure that if you're going to raise capital in the US, that there has to be some level of IP transition that happens into the US entity that you may have. In your case, it's all about pricing, competitiveness, and the IP that you own is also something that might be very similar to the IPs of other competitive positioning. So the way you build value around that is going to be what sets you apart. So very exciting to see where each of you are positioning yourselves. Looking forward to at least getting to see if you're interested. And I know you said Cupertino. I'm not sure why you're in Cupertino, but unless you're selling to Apple. But having said that, looking forward to seeing all of you in some program or the other. Falconix is there to work with entrepreneurs such as yourselves, and so that we're able to bring certain aspects of the value that you want in the markets there in the US. So thank you, everyone. Vish, is that it?